I still remember the exact moment everything started to change. It was a regular Saturday afternoon, quiet, calm, just how I liked it. My wife, Rachel, had just come back from brunch with her friends, the usual group she saw every weekend: Samantha, Gina, and Elise. I never had a problem with her spending time with them. But lately, their influence on her had started to bother me. The way she talked changed, the way she laughed at things that weren't even funny, even the way she looked at me sometimes, like I was the punchline to one of their inside jokes. I didn't know it then, but those brunches were more than just mimosas and gossip. They were planning something. Something that would test not just our marriage, but the limits of trust, pride, and love. Rachel and I had been married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we had a rhythm, a flow. I worked from home as a software analyst, and she worked part-time at a local boutique. We shared chores, made weekend plans, and even had pasta night every Thursday, our own little ritual. But something about her had started to shift over the past couple of months. It was subtle at first. She would come home and seem distracted, glued to her phone with a half smile on her face, typing faster than usual. When I asked her what was so funny, she'd just say, "Oh, nothing. Just group chat stuff." That group chat would eventually become the center of this entire mess. The tipping point came on a random Tuesday. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Rachel walked in with a serious look on her face. Her voice was flat when she said, "We need to talk." My heart sank. You never want to hear those words from your spouse. She sat down and said she needed space, that she wasn't happy, that things felt off, and maybe we should take a break. I was stunned. There was no big fight. No betrayal. Nothing had happened. At least not between us. I didn't understand how we went from sharing morning coffee and lazy weekend movies to, "I need space." I tried to stay calm, to not beg or argue. I asked if she thought this through. She nodded, said she was going to stay with Gina for a few weeks, just until she figured things out. It hurt. A lot. But I agreed. I respected her decision, even though it made no sense. That night, she packed a small suitcase and left. No tears. No hug goodbye. Just silence. The next few days were brutal. The house felt colder. Her side of the bed stayed untouched. I went to work, made dinner, did everything like normal, but my chest felt hollow. I kept wondering if I had missed something, some warning sign, some clue. But it wasn't until a week later that the truth started to unravel. It began with a call from Tom, a mutual friend of ours. He asked how I was holding up. I gave him the basics, that Rachel needed space and that I was giving it to her. That's when he got quiet and said, "Man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I overheard something weird at the bar the other night. Elise was there. She was laughing about some breakup test your wife was doing." I froze. "Breakup test?" I asked, thinking he must have heard wrong. "Yeah," he said. "They dared her to fake a breakup with you. Said it'd be a loyalty test or something. Like, to see how you'd react." I didn't get the full story, but it sounded like a game. A game. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. Was my wife playing with our marriage for the sake of her friends' amusement? Pretending to leave just to watch how I'd handle it? I didn't want to believe it. But the more I thought about it, the more things started to line up. The weird glances, the giggling group chats, the sudden coldness in her tone when she told me she needed space, it all pointed to something deeper. Something planned. I didn't confront her right away. I needed proof. And more importantly, I needed time to think. To feel. Because if she really was doing this as part of a test, then I needed to decide how I was going to respond. Was I going to beg her to come back and feed into their little game? Or was I going to give her a reaction none of them expected? The decision came one morning when I saw one of her friends had accidentally posted a private story on social media. A video of Rachel laughing in Gina's living room, holding a wine glass and saying, "He hasn't even called me once. I think he's starting to crack." Everyone in the room laughed, including her. That was the moment I stopped feeling confused and started feeling something else. Something sharp. Not hate. Not revenge. Just clarity. If this was a test, then it was my turn to grade it. And that's exactly what I did. But not in the way they thought I would. Because the next time Rachel came back to see me, smiling like she'd just finished a little harmless prank, my response left her speechless. And from that moment on, the game changed. Completely. Rachel came back 5 days later, almost like nothing had happened. She let herself into the house with her spare key and walked into the living room with a big smile, like she was returning from a spa retreat instead of faking a breakup. She wore this light blue sweater I'd given her on our anniversary last year, the one she said made her feel safe. And the moment our eyes met, I knew she thought she had the upper hand. Like this was all some harmless joke, and now it was time to laugh it off and move on. She said, "Hey you," like we were still the same couple. I nodded calmly. Not cold, not angry, just blank. And that seemed to throw her off. She sat down across from me on the couch and crossed her legs like she was about to start a casual conversation. "So, I've been thinking a lot. About us. About everything," she said. And I think I just needed some space to clear my head. I kept my voice even. "Did your friends help you clear it?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What?" I leaned forward slightly, resting my elbows on my knees. "You know Gina, Elise, Samantha. The ones who dared you to fake a breakup to see how I'd react." Her face stiffened. For a second, just 1 second, her confident smile slipped. "Who told you that?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her reaction said it all. She looked down, fiddling with her ring, and then let out a breath. "It wasn't meant to hurt you. It was a test. Just to see if you'd fight for me. If you still cared. A test," I repeated, like I was tasting the word. "So pretending to leave me, walking out with no warning, and watching me sit alone in our home while you sipped wine with your friends, that's how you test love." Rachel didn't respond at first. Her eyes darted to the floor, then back to me, but the sparkle she came in with was gone. I could tell she hadn't expected this version of me. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't begging. I wasn't crying. I was just watching her with this quiet calm that unnerved her more than any anger could. "I didn't think it would get this far," she said. "It started as a joke, like a challenge. Gina said guys only value you when they feel like they're losing you." I raised an eyebrow. "So you let her talk you into pretending our marriage was falling apart? For what? A reaction?" Her voice dropped. "I didn't think it would matter if I came back." That hit harder than she probably meant. If she truly believed leaving and coming back wouldn't change anything, then maybe she never really understood what marriage meant in the first place. But I stayed quiet. I let the silence hang there. Let her sit in it. Because in that silence, she finally started to realize something. This wasn't just about a test. This was about trust. And hers was gone. Later that evening, she tried to act like things were normal. She cooked dinner, asked if I wanted to watch our usual show, even suggested we order dessert from that bakery we both loved. But I didn't join her. I stayed in my office working, or at least pretending to. My mind kept going back to that video Tom mentioned, the one where she laughed at me not calling, not chasing her. The way her friends cheered her on like it was some sort of romantic experiment. What kind of person plays with someone's heart like that? Over the next few days, things got stranger. Rachel started being overly sweet, like she was trying to make up for something without admitting it. She made my favorite meals, left notes on the bathroom mirror, even sent me cute photos from our earlier vacations, captioned with, "Remember this?" She wanted things to go back to how they were. But the truth was, they couldn't. Not when I knew what I knew. One night, I checked her phone while she was in the shower. I didn't want to be the kind of person who snooped, but I couldn't ignore my instincts. And what I found made my stomach turn. The group chat was still active. Gina had messaged, "So? Did he cry? Did he beg?" Faced with tears of joy, Rachel had replied, "Nope. He's being weirdly calm. Like scary calm. I think he knows." Elise added, "Men always act chill when they're about to blow up. Be careful." But it was Samantha's message that made everything clear. "You should have ended it for real. The moment you walked out, you gave him a free pass." A free pass? That's how they saw it. Like love was some game with resets and retries? I realized then that Rachel had let herself become someone else, someone I didn't recognize. Someone who listened to friends more than her own husband. Someone who tested loyalty instead of nurturing it. But I still didn't say anything. I let her think she was in control. I wanted her to keep wondering what I knew, what I was thinking, and whether or not I'd ever be the same again. Because the truth was, I wasn't. Something inside me had shifted. I still loved her. Maybe I always would, but that blind trust, that quiet comfort, it was gone. The real test wasn't whether I'd chase after her when she walked out. It was whether she'd still recognize me when I didn't. And soon, she'd find out just how much had changed. The strange thing was, Rachel started acting like everything was fine. Like we just had a small argument, moved past it, and were now rebuilding. She became more affectionate than ever, always hugging me from behind in the kitchen, whispering, "I missed you," at random moments, bringing me coffee in the morning like we were in some movie montage about reconciliation. But beneath that warm exterior, I could see something flickering in her eyes, doubt. Maybe even fear. It was like she sensed the change but didn't know how to name it. And the more she tried to pretend things were back to normal, the more obvious the cracks became. I started noticing her watching me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Her glances lingered, studying my face as if searching for answers. Was I angry? Was I planning something? Was I going to leave her the way she pretended to leave me? That was the real test now, and this time, she was the one being watched. A few days later, I bumped into Gina at the grocery store. She saw me by the frozen food aisle and froze, almost like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't say anything at first, just gave a small nod and kept walking. But she followed me. "So, you and Rachel doing okay?" she asked, voice a little too casual. I turned slowly. "We're fine." "Why?" She gave a tight smile. "Just wondering. She hasn't been answering in the group chat much lately. We thought she might be mad at us." "She has her reasons," I replied, keeping my tone flat. There was an awkward silence, and then she leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Look, it was just a stupid idea, okay? We didn't think she'd actually go through with it." I stared at her. "But she did. And you all laughed about it." She didn't respond. Just looked away and muttered, "Yeah, well, maybe it wasn't so funny after all." As I walked away, something clicked. These women weren't just toxic, they were careless. They encouraged Rachel to damage something they didn't help build. And now that the consequences were sinking in, they were backing off like it was never serious. But it was serious. It was my marriage. My life. And Rachel had let them in, let them twist something sacred into a dare. Back at home, I started noticing more shifts in Rachel. She was quieter when we talked. Her jokes were softer, more careful. She started asking questions that felt loaded, like, "Do you still see us growing old together?" Or, "Are you happy with me, still?" I never gave her the reassurance she seemed to want. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't know how to answer honestly anymore. Meanwhile, another thread started to unravel. Rachel's younger sister, Anna, called me one night. She and I had always gotten along well, more like siblings than in-laws. She said she wanted to check on me, said she'd heard some nonsense from the group about a fake breakup. Apparently, the story was leaking beyond the little circle of friends. Rumors were spreading. People from Rachel's boutique job were whispering about how she tested her marriage. Even her manager had picked up on the drama. Anna sounded upset. "She told me the whole thing was harmless, that you'd laugh it off. But that's not what this is it?" I paused. "No, it's not. She's always been easily influenced," Anna admitted. "Mom used to say Rachel changes with the wind, depending on who she's around. I love her, but I'm not surprised she let them talk her into something so dumb. I just hope she realizes what she might lose." Her words stayed with me long after the call ended. Was Rachel just impressionable? Was this all some reflection of her own insecurities, her need to prove something to her friends or to herself? Or was it deeper than that? Was there a part of her that truly didn't value what we had? The conflict wasn't just between Rachel and me anymore. It had spread into our families, our social circle, our everyday lives. The more I stayed silent, the more people started taking sides without even knowing the full story. Friends stopped calling. One couple we used to do dinners with canceled plans and never rescheduled. People didn't want to get caught in the middle. And maybe I didn't blame them. What made things worse was that Rachel didn't seem to know how to fix any of it. She was trying, at least on the surface. She planned a weekend getaway, booked a cozy cabin out by the lake, said it was for us to reset. But I didn't say yes. I just told her I needed to think. And she looked like she understood, and didn't. The hardest part of all this wasn't the betrayal. It was the uncertainty. I didn't know if I was living with the same woman anymore. The one I married was gentle, funny, and emotionally grounded. This version? She was apologizing without words, trying to rewind time, but she couldn't look me in the eye for long. And maybe that's because she knew I saw through everything now. I'd stopped sleeping well. My mind kept replaying scenes. Rachel leaving with her suitcase, that video of her laughing, the messages in the group chat. I kept wondering how much of our relationship had been real in her eyes. How long had she been doubting us? Was this just the first time it showed? The emotional weight was unbearable at times. But I didn't lash out. I didn't throw accusations. I just let her live in the house she tried to walk away from. Let her cook in the kitchen where I used to dance with her. Let her sleep beside me while I lay awake, wondering how it all came to this. And still, I said nothing. Because sometimes silence is louder than rage. And I knew the moment I did speak, really speak, it would change everything. The silence between Rachel and me had become its own language. We talked about dinner plans, work, bills, errands, everything except the one thing that truly mattered. There were no more talks about love or trust or the future. It was like we were two people rehearsing a script we no longer believed in. She moved around the house like a ghost sometimes, still smiling, still trying, but always with that nervous glance, like she was bracing for something. And she was right to. I could feel something shifting inside me every day. The more time passed, the more I realized I wasn't just hurt, I was changed. I couldn't unsee what I'd seen, couldn't unhear that mocking video, couldn't unread those texts that reduced our marriage to a social experiment. It had all started as a fake breakup, a loyalty test pushed by her friends. But now it felt real. Not because I wanted it to be, but because it already was. We were broken, and she was only now beginning to feel the weight of it. One night, while she was asleep, I went into the guest room and opened the drawer where I'd kept all our old photos and cards. Anniversaries. Vacations. That handwritten letter she gave me when we moved into this house, saying she felt safe with me, that I was her home. I read it 3 times before setting it down. I wasn't trying to torture myself. I was just trying to remember who we were, and how far we'd fallen. The real turning point came the next morning. I was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, when I saw her phone light up on the counter. Another message from the group chat. This time, I didn't look away. The screen flashed with a new text from Gina. "He's still not saying anything? Weird. You sure he's not planning something?" And then Rachel replied, "He's too calm. It scares me." That was it. No defense. No explanation. Just fear of the quiet man she used to know better than anyone. She didn't trust me anymore. And somehow, that felt more painful than all the rest. I left the house that day and drove around town aimlessly. Ended up at a small coffee shop I hadn't been to in years. I sat there, thinking about everything, about Rachel, about how easily people throw around the word test, like it's harmless. But marriage isn't a classroom. Love isn't something you measure with mind games. It's built with actions, trust, time. And once that trust is cracked, even slightly, everything underneath starts to collapse. While I sat there, sipping cold coffee, my phone buzzed. It was Anna again. She wanted to talk. Said Rachel had called her crying the night before. Said she was scared I was falling out of love with her. I didn't respond right away. Because maybe she was right. Maybe I already had. Or maybe I just didn't recognize her anymore. Anna asked if she could be honest. I told her yes. "She's ashamed," she said. "But she won't admit it. She thought it would be funny. They all did. But she never expected you to shut down like this. It's eating her up." I stared out the window, watching people go about their lives. "She still doesn't get it," I said quietly. "It's not about the silence. It's about the fact that she had to test me in the first place." Anna sighed. "She thought she needed proof you still cared. I guess she didn't know you'd give her silence instead of fire." But maybe that's what made it worse. If I'd shouted, cried, begged, maybe it would have been easier to forgive. Easier for her to feel like she still had control. But this version of me, the one who just watched and waited, unsettled her. Because she didn't know what I'd do next. And neither did I. That night, I came home late. Rachel was sitting on the couch, arms folded tightly, eyes red. The TV was on, but the volume was low. She looked up as I walked in. "I thought you weren't coming back," she said softly. "I almost didn't," I replied, not looking at her. She stood, slowly walking toward me. "Can we talk?" I nodded, but didn't sit down. She started. "I know I messed up. I know you're hurt, and I hate that I made you feel like you weren't enough. It was stupid. It was all just pressure. I let them get into my head. I didn't respond. I let her keep going. I didn't think you'd react the way you did. You shutting down. It scared me. It still does." I finally looked her in the eyes. It should. Her breath caught. She hadn't expected that. "I never needed to be tested, Rachel. I was here. I've always been here. And the second you made our love a dare for your friends to laugh at, you broke something I don't know how to fix." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't move toward her. This wasn't about comforting her anymore. It was about what came next. And we were standing at the edge of it. We stayed there for a long moment. Her crying quietly. Me standing in the doorway, half in and half out. both of us knowing something big was coming. She whispered, "Do you still love me?" And I didn't answer, because the next words out of my mouth would decide everything. The silence that followed her question wasn't just heavy, it was final. Rachel stood there waiting, eyes searching mine for even the smallest sign of forgiveness, but I couldn't give her what she wanted. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I walked past her without answering, up the stairs, and into the bedroom. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. But she didn't follow me this time. Maybe because she finally realized that this wasn't a game anymore. The next morning, I left early. No note, no explanation. I just needed space, real space, the kind she pretended to want but never truly respected. I drove out of town for a few hours, ended up at my parents' old lake cabin. It hadn't been used in years, but I still had the keys. Being there felt like stepping into another version of my life, one untouched by all this pain. No group chats. No fake breakups. Just quiet, clean air, and the sound of water lapping at the dock. I stayed there the whole day, trying to decide what I was going to do. It wasn't until evening that my phone rang. It was Tom again. I hesitated before answering, but something told me I needed to hear what he had to say. "Man, I don't know if you've seen this yet," he said, his voice low and fast. "But you need to get on social media right now." I frowned. "Why?" He sighed. "Rachel's friends, Gina, especially, they posted something. A video. From the night she left you." My stomach dropped. I pulled up my phone and opened the app. It didn't take long to find. There it was, a reel uploaded just hours ago, already climbing in views. The caption read, "Girls just want to test their men face with tears of joy #relationship games #loyalty test." I hit play, and what I saw made my blood run cold. It was them, Rachel, Gina, and Elise, sitting in Gina's apartment, wine glasses in hand. Gina had the camera turned on herself, laughing as she said, "Okay, it's official. Rachel's doing the breakup test tonight. Let's see how long it takes him to break." They all cheered, and then the camera panned to Rachel, who gave a playful shrug and said, "Let's find out if he fights for me, or just lets me go." The comments were flooded with people laughing, joking, calling it savage, iconic, even brilliant. But none of them knew what it really meant. They didn't see the fallout, the sleepless nights, the way Rachel had shattered something sacred. To them, it was entertainment. To me, it was betrayal caught on camera. The worst part wasn't even the video itself, it was the date on the upload. It had been recorded weeks ago, before she even came back home, which meant she'd known this footage existed the whole time. She knew, and she said nothing. I sat there staring at my screen, trying to make sense of the new level of hurt. This wasn't just about a test anymore. It was public, deliberate, viral. She hadn't just betrayed me in private. She'd let the world in on it, and then tried to pretend it never happened. When I finally drove back that night, I didn't speak to her. I didn't even look at her. She tried to say something as I walked through the door, but I held up my hand and went straight upstairs. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just kept seeing her face in that video, smiling, acting, pretending like it was all a joke. The next morning, she knocked softly on the bedroom door. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaking. I opened it but didn't let her in. I just stood there. "Did you see it?" she asked, already knowing the answer. I nodded once. "You let them post it. I didn't know they still had it," she said quickly. "I told them not to. I swear." I stared at her. "You told them not to after they filmed it? Or before?" She didn't answer. That was answer enough. The second plot twist wasn't just that she had betrayed me with a test. It was that she allowed our most painful moment to become someone else's content. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was humiliating. And now, it wasn't just between us. It was between us and thousands of strangers who thought my pain was funny. She started to cry. Not the quiet, guilty kind, but the desperate, panicked kind. "Please," she said, grabbing my hand. "Please don't leave me. I was stupid. I was trying to feel something. I thought it would be harmless. I didn't know it would go this far." I pulled my hand away. "You didn't know? You stood there while they filmed you. You looked right at the camera. You said those words. I didn't think they'd actually post it, but you still played along." She sank to the floor, sobbing into her hands, repeating over and over, "I messed up. I messed everything up." And she had. But what she didn't understand yet, what she still didn't understand, was that this wasn't just about a mistake. It was about a choice. Over and over, she chose them. She chose their approval, their laughter, their games. And now, she was watching the consequences unfold in real time. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at her and said, "You didn't just break us. You gave us away." I turned and walked out, not even sure where I was going. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. I drove for hours with no real destination in mind. The roads blurred past me, and so did the memories. Our wedding day, the first time we moved into the house, those quiet nights when we would lie on the couch, her head on my chest, no words needed. I kept wondering where it went wrong when the shift happened. But deep down I knew. It wasn't about one night or one decision. It was about the quiet moments where trust was chipped away without either of us noticing. By the time I returned home, the sky had already turned gray. Rain tapped softly against the windows, and the house felt heavier than usual. Rachel was sitting in the living room, knees pulled up to her chest, phone on the coffee table in front of her. She looked like she hadn't moved since I left. The second I walked in, she stood, her eyes puffy and red. "I took the video down," she said quietly. "I told them all to delete it. I told them we're done." I nodded but didn't say anything. "I've been thinking a lot," she went on, "about why I even did it. About how I let other people's opinions get louder than your love. And I know sorry doesn't fix it. I know that." Still, I stayed quiet. "I lost myself somewhere along the way," she whispered. "I became someone I don't even like. I hurt the one person who never stopped showing up for me. And I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but I had to say it. I had to take responsibility." I finally looked at her. "You're right. Sorry doesn't fix it. But taking accountability is a start." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. "I'm not staying because it's easy," I added. "I'm staying because I want to believe there's still something here worth rebuilding. But I need truth. Not games. Not tests. I need to know we're building forward, not pretending like none of this happened." She nodded quickly, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Anything. I'll do anything to prove that to you." We talked for hours that night. About everything. About how disconnected she had started to feel. About how the attention from her friends made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in our marriage for a long time. About how she didn't know how to ask for what she needed without feeling weak. It didn't excuse what she did, but it gave me a window into the mind of the woman I once knew so well. And for the first time in weeks, something inside me softened. Not because the pain was gone. It wasn't. But because I finally understood the full picture, not just my side of it. The next day, we started making changes. We scheduled therapy, both individual and as a couple. We deleted toxic group chats, reworked our routines, talked more, really talked. It was slow, awkward at times, but it felt real. The trust wasn't rebuilt overnight, but the foundation was being touched again, gently and deliberately. Weeks passed. The story died down. The video disappeared from circulation. Rachel even reached out to some of the people who had commented on it, apologizing, explaining, not to fix her image, but to own what she'd done. She was trying, in ways I didn't expect. And just when things started to feel like they might find a new normal, the twist came. I got a message. From a name I didn't recognize. Someone with a private profile and no photo. The message said, "Your wife didn't tell you everything. Check the group chat history from a month before the prank. There's more you should know." My heart dropped. I didn't respond. But curiosity got the better of me. I logged into Rachel's laptop later that evening when she was out running errands. Opened the old messaging app she used with her friends. The one she promised she deleted. The messages were still there. Archived. Not just about the prank, but something else entirely. 2 months before the breakup stunt, there were screenshots. Photos of Rachel having lunch alone with a man I'd never met. At first, I assumed it was just a friend. But then I read the messages. Gina, "Girl, he's cute. You sure he's just a client?" Elise, "He looks like trouble. Eyes. You gonna tell your husband?" Rachel, "There's nothing to tell. Yet." That word stung like ice. I scrolled further. It never said anything about cheating. No evidence of an affair. But it was clear she had entertained the attention. Kept secrets. Flirted with the edge of something she knew was dangerous. And she never told me. Not even in the long, emotional confession she gave when I came back. She told me about the prank. About the doubt. But not this. When she walked through the door that evening, humming to herself, I felt that silence return. But this time, it was mine again. She saw my face, paused. "What's wrong?" I didn't speak. I just turned the laptop toward her. She froze. "You said you told me everything," I said quietly. "But you didn't. You left this part out." Her eyes widened as she read the screen. She opened her mouth to explain, but I held up a hand. "I don't need another story," I said. "I just need the truth. All of it." And in that moment, I saw it, regret, fear, and a different kind of heartbreak in her eyes. Because she knew that everything we'd been rebuilding now hung on one final answer. And this time, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. Rachel didn't speak for a long time. She just stared at the screen, blinking like she was trying to hold back tears. I didn't push her. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting, not for another excuse, but for the truth she had chosen to keep from me. Finally, she looked up. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "He was a vendor. He came into the shop a few times. He started flirting. I didn't stop it. I liked the attention, I won't lie. I never crossed a line physically, but emotionally. I guess I did." She swallowed hard. "And I didn't tell you because I knew you'd never look at me the same again." She was right about that. I didn't look at her the same. Not after the loyalty test. Not after the laughter behind my back. And not now, after realizing she had been looking for validation from someone else long before she ever pretended to walk away. It was like our whole marriage had been quietly unraveling, thread by thread, while I was busy trying to hold it together. I sat down across from her, exhausted. "Why didn't you talk to me? If you were feeling unseen, unwanted, anything, why didn't you just tell me?" "I didn't know how," she said honestly. "I didn't even realize how far I drifted until it was too late. I got caught up in what my friends were saying, what I saw online, those relationship tests and social experiments. I thought maybe it would snap us out of something. But I ended up destroying the one thing I actually cared about." I nodded slowly. Not because I forgave her in that moment, but because I understood. Not all betrayals are loud. Some come in the form of neglect, silence, secrets. We both made mistakes. But hers had come with consequences neither of us could undo. In the days that followed, we made a choice to step back from the marriage. Not as a punishment, not out of spite, but out of necessity. We both needed space. Real space this time. She moved in with her sister temporarily, and I stayed in the house. It was painful, but also oddly peaceful. For the first time in months, I could think clearly. I spent my evenings walking, journaling, even picking up some freelance work I'd pushed aside. Rachel went to therapy, and so did I, separately. A few weeks later, she asked if we could meet. We sat at a quiet park, just two people trying to make sense of what they had shared and what was left. "I'm not going to ask you to take me back," she said gently. "Not now. Maybe not ever. I just wanted to tell you that I've learned more about myself in these last few weeks than I have in years. And I'm not proud of who I was. But I'm trying to become someone better. Whether you're part of that future or not." I believed her. She wasn't acting anymore. There was no performance, no audience. Just her, raw and honest. For the first time in a long time, I saw the woman I fell in love with. Not perfect, but real. "I'm not sure where we go from here," I told her. "But I think we both needed this crash to finally wake up." We didn't jump back into our marriage. We didn't post perfect pictures or fake happy captions. We gave each other space to heal, to rebuild ourselves as individuals. And over time, something unexpected happened. We found a rhythm again, not as husband and wife right away, but as two people who had learned to listen. 6 months later, we started couples counseling, not because we had it all figured out, but because we finally wanted to. This time, there were no games, no tests, no what if dares from friends. Just us. Two imperfect people trying to rebuild trust one conversation at a time. The viral video? It faded from the internet. Most people moved on. Her so-called friends? They vanished the second things got real. Rachel cut ties with them all, not out of anger, but because she realized they weren't part of the life she wanted anymore. Looking back now, I still feel the sting of what happened. I won't pretend the pain disappeared. But it taught me something I never expected to learn. That love isn't about being tested or surviving chaos. It's about being chosen every day, especially when things get hard. It's about communication, patience, and above all, respect. We're still working through it. Some days are better than others. But they're honest. And maybe that's enough, for now. So if there's anything I'd say to someone watching this, someone who's wondering if love can survive betrayal or emotional disconnection, it's this. Don't wait until everything falls apart to pay attention. Talk. Listen. And never, ever let someone turn your relationship into a game for their entertainment. Because rebuilding a heart takes far more time than breaking one. And if you're the one who broke it, just know that owning the truth, even when it hurts, is the first step towards something real again.